Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Torah for the Nations, B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. This is Pesach Sherbo on the microphone. We got Terry Hayes as a co-host here, as always. It is the 2nd of March here where I am in Sfat, Israel, and it's 3:02 in the morning. And you guys know what time it is wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. We do this every Wednesday night, USA time, 8 p.m. And we also do this on a different channel or a different Zoom room, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. You check my timeline or B'nai Noach Israel timeline for the link. It's a permanent link, so if you get it once, you've got it. Thanks for being with us amongst everything that's going on in the world. It's a little unnerving for some people, and some people are dealing with it pretty good. And I only want to talk a very short period of time about this, and then we'll move on to some other things. My wife and I, Shira, have been locked in for about 5 weeks now. It started actually before all the lockdown started because I'm a little older, and I just happened to get a cold. I went to the doctor, and this was before all this information came. And he said, I got a suggestion for you. Go home and close the door and stay there. Just go close the door and stay there. I didn't know we didn't know what he was talking about at the time, but that's what we did. I mean, the doctor said it was dangerous to be walking around doing things. So we've been in the house other than I run out. They have stores open at 7 o'clock in the morning for us old geezers. And we run out, get the stuff, come home, and it's all done, and we don't have to go out anymore. But no matter how many shopping lists you make, you miss something. So you got to go out a few days here and there. Anyway, it gets a little tense when you're together like this. It gets tense when you can't have physical contact with your grandkids and your kids. These things get a little tense. But you know, and Sharon and I were talking about it just a few hours ago. There's one basic thing you have to hang on to in all of this, because this is like being in a science fiction movie. It really is. But you know what? The director of this is not like the director in a science fiction movie. We trust God, period. If you trust in God, period, and you live in the moment, if you live for right now, where you are, what you're doing, what you're studying, and not let your imagination grab hold of you and run wild with it, without that yetzer hara, we call it, the dark side of your mind taking over, and you just go forward, you can be successful. But there are going to be times when you slip. Don't get upset at yourself. It's okay. It's like, you know, when I was a kid, I grew up in a house that had radiators in it. And down in the basement, there was a boiler. We used to turn on the water, and it would fill up this big tank, and then it would get heated up. But if something happened and it didn't turn off in time, it overheated in the boiler, all of a sudden you heard this down in the basement. What happened? The safety valve opened, let out the steam to take the pressure off, then closed again, and everything went on as usual. Understand that this is going to happen. It happens to everybody. Don't look for it, but if it happens, recognize it. If you get a little uptight and a little, and you feel like you're going to argue with your wife or husband, you feel like you're so with the kids, you can't stand that anymore. Let that safety valve open and let off. Now, how do you do that? Sometimes, and with women, basically, it's crying. Men don't like to cry. I'm a macho man. I'm not going to cry, but cry. It'll help you. Learn to do it. A real man would do that. A real man lets the steam off by letting out his emotions that are backed up inside of him without yelling at somebody or without making someone feel uncomfortable. So it's okay to cry. There's nothing wrong with it. So if you feel like it, go in your room, close the door, and let it out. Also, if it gets to the point, and we've had some people contacting us, that you really need to vent and you really need to get things out so you stay stable, get a hold of us. We're as close as your computer screen. We're good listeners. We'll help you any way we can to get through this. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure what's going to happen, and neither is anybody else. None of us have the visions that our prophets of old had, but we don't need it. We just have to not have faith in, trust God. Know that he's there. Know that he's the director. Know that everything's going to come down exactly the way he wants it to come down in the end. Now, I'm not saying that he orchestrated this. I would never say that, because he wouldn't. He may have allowed it, but he certainly didn't orchestrate it. Somebody here on this planet started this, and he's watching what's happened. But believe me, just like what happened in Egypt, in the end, he hears our cries and he sets us free. It's that simple. And it's what you should do, of course, is pray. Keep your connection strong with God, and read Psalms. Psalms are great. Read Psalms. Now, I want to say hi to everybody here. I want to say hi to Thomas and Cole, Scotty, Dan, Tony, Angela, Amuela, Blaine, Robin, and Veronica. Good to see all you guys. And we're so glad that you're with us whenever we turn on the room. We become a community, which is the goal of what we're trying to do. We have people from all over the world that come together as a community. Not I'm alone over here and I'm alone over here, but come together. They discuss things, talk about things, share ideas, talk about God, talk about the things they're learning. And it's so important that we do that. This is what makes us a community. And we do this without, and I thank Hashem for this very much, stumbling all over our own egos, which is a tough thing. We're here as equals. It doesn't make any difference if you're Jew or Gentile. We're equals. And we have much to learn from each other. The Jews have a lot to learn. The Israelites have a lot to learn from the righteous of the nations. And the righteous of the nations have a lot to learn from the Israelites. And it's an exchange of I had it all set, and now there it is. Okay, I'm getting this thing up here, and I'll do a share screen here in a second. But on the way up here, there we go. Oh, yes. I'm going to try a share screen here so you guys can see this. I haven't gone and got the book yet, but I'm going to go and get the book so I can read it. And how do we do a share screen here? Which one do we going to share? This one. Can you guys see what's written here?
Oh, yeah, they can see it plain.
Okay. Mary here states we're not allowed to transmit secrets of the Torah to an idolater. This is the Gemara talking to me, the Talmud talking to me as a Jew. We're not allowed to teach idolaters the Torah, since he serves the stars and denies the very essence of the belief in God. How can we teach them these parts of the Torah? Now, this is where we see in Rambam, you can't don't teach the Gentile this and don't teach the Gentile that. But look at what it says further. By contrast, a non-Jew who studies the details of the 7 Noahide laws which are incumbent upon him deserves the honor due a Kohen Hagadol. So what kind of honor that is? And that's in Sanhedrin 59a. The study of the 7 Noahide laws may lead him to study most of the precepts of the Torah. And it's okay. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's not okay anymore. Because here it is, black and white, by our sages. So did the share string go off?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what does it say? Honor as the Kohen Gadol. And I bought new earphones. They still don't stay on.
They don't work with a hat.
Yeah, well, no, I tried to get ones that went around my, I'll do it this way. I tried to get ones that went around this way, and I couldn't find them here in Spot. So, and I wasn't supposed to be out anyway, so I was doing things pretty quick. Before one of the policemen asked me, "What are you doing out here?" The point is, folks, you have every right to God's word that any human being has, including the Israelites. There's only one prerequisite: that you've stopped praying and worshiping something else, which is man-made religion. We're supposed to release to you all the information we possibly can, but you have to be able to understand that we also have to show you how to read it. Once you know how to read it, you can go on your own. But until you do, you have to understand that the way you and I grew up in America, the Western way of thinking, is not the way you read this material. And it's on the internet, anybody can get it. And we've seen, and you guys know people that read this and say, well, it says this and that, and the Jews just want to turn us into a cult. They want to make slaves out of us. They want to do this, and they want to do that. You've all heard it. Well, it's garbage. It's not true. And when someone, I don't care who the teacher is, knocks rabbis, knocks sages, wants to change the way what's actually written because they don't like the way it's written, you have to learn to stay away from those people. You have to stay with people who walk the way that Hashem wants us to walk, which is humbly. We don't have to knock anybody else to make ourselves better, but we have to teach what's written and not interpret in our own mind. I don't like that, I'm going to use this over here. Don't do it, please, please. It'll save you a lot of ag. Believe me, I've been there, done that. So I'm speaking from experience and not from just what I've read. Terry, you got something you want to add to that?
I can't remember. I think it was Angela who posted. There's a really good message from Rabbi Raskin of Chabad this last week, and one of the best I've heard is really good. And he talked about this very subject. You know, once we leave idolatry and we start studying the 7 laws, and we kind of get, my reading between the lines, get balanced in these 7 laws and what they're teaching us, then we can go on to other areas of the Torah that we may not be commanded in those areas, but there's precepts that we can learn from them. And then he said, when you're in that realm at that level, you're permitted to pretty much read and study any of the Hebrew scriptures if you want to learn how Israel operates on a plain text level without going deep. He said, you're permitted to do that. You're permitted to, he said, by learning how we are supposed to operate will actually enhance your learning and how you operate. And I thought that was really good the way he put that, because I've heard rabbis say you have no business studying Isaiah or reading Daniel and all this. And I kind of took, because I was early on, I took that, okay, yeah, no problem. But then the way he put this is at certain levels in your Noahide or B'nai Noach walk or righteous of the Gentiles, you're permitted to learn what Israel is, not learn in depth, but learn what it is they have, what it is they're commanded to do, and see how they operate as a nation before God as priests and stuff. And he says, and it will help you know who you are. And that's kind of what I got out of it. I thought it was really good.
That's absolutely beautiful. That is absolutely right. There's only one thing I'd like to add to it as a suggestion, and we talked about it in the meetings we had earlier this week, that you can go from rabbi to rabbi, website to website, Aish, Breslov, Chabad, whatever you want to go to, and read whatever you want and learn whatever you want. But you should connect with a rabbi, a teacher, to guide you, that you can go to. You can't go to this rabbi and learn this over here, and then you decide whether you're going to accept it or not, and you go someplace else and you accept something over here, someplace else accept something over there. You're supposed to have a guide. Everyone does. I have mine. Rabbi Goldberg has his. Rabbi Shirky has his. We all have guides. We all have a place to go to discuss things and run things through that keeps us going like this, not zigzagging. If I want to know exactly how to do something, I'm just going to throw something out here, how to cover my counters in my kitchen to make them kosher for Pesach, which is coming up next week. And by the way, you guys are in for a treat the next 2 weeks because Pesach, the Sabbath of Pesach, or what we call the Yom Tov, the good day, comes out at this time. So I've asked Terry to host the next 2 meetings. So Terry and Dan, because I won't be there. So just a preview here. Terry's, I'm pretty sure he's got something all prepared for you guys. So it should be an exciting time. But here's the thing. I went and asked a countertop around your sinks and the countertop you work on, what's the best way to make it kosher for Passover? This rabbi says this, and this rabbi says this, and another one over there says that. And if he's Sephardi, he says something over here, and Ashkenazi over there. And they all have their minhagim or traditions, how they did it. But I belong to Chabad. Chabad, I go to my Chabad, the guy that you ask a question to, he says, okay, this is the way you do it. And it doesn't make any difference what you hear any other way, because I'm Chabad. And once you get it, then you just do it. You might hear something easier and say, wow, I'm going to do that. Well, you can't. You've asked the rabbi that you're following which is the right way, and you continue to follow in his path. I think I told a story during the week about the prophet, and I'm thinking it was Jeremiah, but God sent him to a specific family and said to him, get with the boys, drink a l'chaim, sit and talk. In Hebrew, in Chabad, we call it a fabrengen. We just get together and talk and everything and have a few drinks. So he went to this family and he got the boys together. He served some food and he brought out wine, started pouring it, and the boys said, whoa, wait a minute. We're not drinking any wine. And he said, wait a minute, what do you mean? God told me to come to you, talk to you, and serve you a meal and serve the wine. And they said, well, sorry, we don't drink wine, and we're not going to drink wine. They got up and walked out. Jeremiah goes back to God, and I'm pretty sure it was Jeremiah. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm telling you up front. Jeremiah goes to God. Of course, God knew what had happened, but because he knows everything, but he says, no, tell me what happened. Jeremiah says, they refused to drink with me. And I told him, it was you that sent me. He said, no, we're not drinking because our father told us not to drink wine. And that was the reason why. God looked at Jeremiah and said, I wish all of my children would listen to their father exactly the way those boys listened to their father. In other words, God wants us to listen to him just like those boys. And he didn't fault them for not drinking the wine. They were following the instructions that their father gave them. That's what he wants from us. He wants us not to invent things, not to get around things. And the only way we can do that is by us. The only way you can say this is not thinking. Now, I don't mean don't think about life. But what I'm saying is do not, when you're hearing something, when something's coming into your head, when someone is presenting something to you, listen to it. Don't right away start judging it. Oh, I don't do it this way. Well, I heard this over here, and I'm thinking this over here. Do not do that. Don't think. Listen. Put it into your head. Don't judge it. Put it into your head. Let it come in with all the other information you have, and then you can decide about it. It should fit very nicely with other information you have, very nicely. I used to tell people for years and years and years, don't think, just listen. And I always got the answer back, what do you mean don't think? We think all day long. How can we stop from thinking? I really didn't know how to explain myself till I heard someone else say it, somebody wiser than I, because he said it differently. He says, when you're listening to information, don't think about it, just receive it. If you're reading it in a book, just receive it. Once you have it inside, you've heard it all, then you can start thinking about the information. That's called meditation. So learn to listen to things without judging it before it's fully inside your head. Do that. You know, it's like if you pick up an orange frosted cake and you scrape some frosting off the cake and put it in your mouth and say, oh, it's all orange and it's a little too this and a little too that. I don't want any more. And you don't actually get in and taste the whole thing, you'll never know the truth. So this is one way of figuring out the truth. I'm going to ask Cole if he wants to add anything to what Terry and I have been talking about here.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you want to add anything to what we've been talking about the studying and learning and following a rabbi or a teacher?
Oh, no, absolutely. You know, Perky Evo, it says to find yourself a teacher, sit at his feet and drink thirstily of his words. You know, and that's certainly something that I found in Chabad. You know, I'm very fortunate that I found a community that's accepting of Noachites. And I've actually found a rabbi that I learn with on a weekly basis. Right now, he's the one stuck in Jerusalem I told you about the other night.
Right.
And so we meet on a Zoom room tonight I'm going to meet with him at 7, actually. I'll be leaving here at 7 to meet with him. So having a rabbi to be able to bounce ideas off of and having a teacher, but it wasn't like I just walked into a Chabad house and they said, oh, hey, welcome. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Good to have you here. You know, it wasn't like that at all. To be honest, it was, you know, who are you? Why are you here? What is your intentions? You know, it was, they very much held me off at a distance for a while until they got to know my sincerity, you know, until they got to know who I was a little bit. But once you get a teacher, one of the first things that I learned about Torah is that all your day's written out for you there. It makes things easier following Torah, in my life anyways. It teaches me how to wake up, how to conduct myself when I first wake up, how to get dressed, how to perform myself throughout the day, you know, and it all falls within the 7 Noachide laws, you know, but these are laws that go beyond the 7. But, you know, it's just kind of become a lifestyle for me, you know, living in the Jewish community. I'm the Shabbos goy at our shul, and yeah, so sometimes I get people come up to me and go, you know, I'd sure like to use the restroom, but it's awful dark in there, which means somebody has turned the light out and they need the light on because they can't ask me to turn the light on. They can't ask me to do any work during Shabbos. So it's an honor to be able to serve the Jewish community, you know, and in return, I get so much knowledge, you know, and it started with the Aleph Beit, you know. I bothered this one individual so much that he finally said, okay, you want to learn Judaism? Here's the Aleph Bet. Learn that first. If you can learn that, then I'll help you learn some Torah. Maybe, he said, you know? And so it was kind of that cat and mouse game that got me centered in the community and got me surrounded by people who are now support system. We're now mishpocha. They're now family, you know? And it's great to have a teacher. It's great to have people like you, Rabbi Shiro, and Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, and Rabbi Moshe Schulman, and all the rabbis Rabbi Kaufman that come on here and teach all of us. Because without you guys, without the rabbanim of the world, what would we do? Judaism is all about being a light unto the nations, or lagoyim. And without rabbis, without teachers to spread that knowledge to Noachides, we would be lost in the dark. We wouldn't even know what we were. Without the Jews, without the Jewish nation, we wouldn't even know that we were Noachides.
I want to ask you a question because I don't know. How long have you been walking this walk?
Oh, since 1998.
Wow.
I met with a Jewish chaplain and a member of the community, and had a very long discussion about what a Noahide was. And I was never really a Christian. I was never baptized or anything like that. My mother was a hippie flower child, so we never really, she didn't believe in religion whatsoever. No religion was okay for her. It was, anarchy, whatever. But so I didn't really have a religious background. But once they explained to me what a Noahide was, it was like a light bulb went off inside my head and a fire in my soul. And it was like, that's what I am. And I am so happy with my lot in life. People have asked me, why don't you ever convert? Why don't you seek conversion? I'm so happy to be an Noahide. That's what Hashem has made me. That's my lot in life.
Yes.
I can serve Am Yisrael. I can be of service to them. I can support them in everything that I do.
That's that's a wonderful, wonderful testimony, and you're a person that's been there, done that. It's always good for people to hear that. Terry's the same way. He actually.
I wish every Noahide can feel that beauty that you just described. I've had a hard time explaining what you just said because I'm in the same boat with you. It's amazing. It's hard to put into words where we're at. Is such an honor. And, so many out there want to twist the Torah. Oh, they're going to make, the Noahides are going to make us, the Jews are going to make us slaves. No.
No.
Yes, we know our part. We know their part. And just like what Rabbi Freelander said, when the Jews have to stop and do their part, we continue on in spiritual service. And what you just said was amazing. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And here lately, I've kind of put this in what I've been going through. I want to say really since Pesach has helped us come in with the Rabbi Goldberg and Britt Alam, the Noahide World Center. I have been transforming a lot. And the way I've put it this week is I'm learning to grow into the image of God that's in me.
It's beautiful.
That's beautiful. And we all want to do that. We all want to grow into we were created in God's image. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean poof, you're God's image. You have to learn, and he puts something within us that makes us, we have to fight through it, kind of like education and so forth. It's that the soul part of us that is the nefesh, not the neshama. And that's I know there's two different parts to everybody, just so you know that. Or they're two parts of the same thing. There's different levels. There's all kinds of explanations. But we all have a nefesh, every single one of us. But you know what? So do animals. They get lifeline from God. What makes us different is the neshama, the part of us that is in us, that is us, but it's a part of God also, which makes us all one. We're all connected together through that. Animals don't have that part because they don't have free choice. They're little robots. God programmed a cat to be a cat, an elephant to be an elephant, an aardvark to be an aardvark, and they go about their lives, and that's it. He didn't program us that way. He said, we're making man in our image. That's a spiritual image, obviously. We are powerful people, but we have to learn to use what we have. And part of it is what Terry's been through, what Cole's been through, and a lot of other people in this room have been through, where you have to allow that neshama, the godly part of you, to start talking to your brain. And your brain talking to the animal part of you, which basically is your emotional part that comes out of your soul, it comes out of your heart, so that when one of these animal instincts comes up in you, pride, anger, jealousy, then the godly part says, whoa, wait a minute, you don't need that. Just hang on there, let's handle this. And just talking as one who's been through this kind of adjustment, because I used to have what's called flash anger and a few other things, which was, to me, was uncontrollable at the time. Now I know how to control it. Now I don't even worry about it anymore. It's just gone. And you guys will find that it will happen to all of you, the same thing. And this thing about where Pirkei Avot says you find yourself a teacher and you sit at his feet, it's not being subservient. What you're doing is learning how to be like him, and he's being like teaching you how to be like God. In the image of God, you were created. And you can't do it yourself. You can't reinvent the wheel. There's a way to do it. It's been done for 4,000 years this way. And the people have been studying, have been upside down, backwards, and sideways, and made the mistakes. And they're willing to tell you, share with you, how to do it successfully. I was a successful car salesman in the USA for 18, 20 years. But I didn't invent the way to be a successful car salesman. When I got into the business, I bought a book by a guy named Joe Girard. It was my Tanakh for the car industry. He was the #1 car salesman in the USA at the time. Every night I'd read that book, read passages, I'd go to work the next day and do exactly what was written there. Whether it's hand address 100 envelopes and put it in the mail with some kind of invitation for people to come in and buy from you. Sit down and call those people 4 days later, 100 phone calls, and say, by the way, you should get my letter. And the other salesmen laughed at me. We don't need to do this. We know he's successful, but we're doing it our way. I said, okay. Within 3 months, I was laughing myself all the way to the bank, and I was the #1 salesman in that particular dealership for about 15 months till I left. And nobody got to where I was, but why? Not because of me, because of Joe Girard. I took what he had already found successful and used it. So when everybody said to me, what a great salesman you are, I say, no. I'd say, no. I can't quite see it, but I'd say, no, I'm not the great salesman. I'm a great imitator. Joe Girard is the guy that's the great salesman. And so, I mean, I'll never forget from General Motors, I won a beautiful, expensive Rolex watch for being one of the best salesmen on the East Coast USA. And somebody offered me some money for it, a lot more money than it was worth, actually, because it came from Chevrolet, and I sold it at the time. But you can be successful, and it's okay to copy and imitate a successful person. So when you have a successful teacher, a person that's successful and accomplished, they'll show you how you can be the same thing. There's no pride involved here. When I first started working with the Noahides, my only goal was one thing: connect people to the God of Israel. How should I do it? How to do it? What should I do? And let me tell you, when I started working with Noahides, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there. And fortunately, a lot of people have started, and guys smarter than me, they're coming up with ways. They've got courses. You won't see any courses from me, because I figured if somebody's already done it and it's good, why should I try to reinvent it? I'd rather guide someone to those courses and learn. No competition, just learn. And you guys, if you need any help along the way, I'm here. Ask me questions. I'm always available 24/7. And wow. Dan?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about new discovery, because you said, I get the analogy. I'm up in Canada. I was top 50 in sales in the auto industry for Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep 3 times in the country. They sent us on trips, all kinds of gifts. And I know Jill Girard was I started in 1990, right around there. So it might have been just after yourself. I did it for about 24 and a half years. But Zig Ziglar, some wonderful, and I started to realize what they're doing is lifestyle. It's routine. I find when you're adapting it to Torah, there are deep lessons that I don't think I'll ever get. But when it comes to the walk as a B'nai Noach, we are here to do the walk. And I think that the walk, we can learn that for sure. But there are things that are off limits. But what I wanted to ask you was, when it comes to discovery, because on the side, I used to be a Christian educator in the ACE Christian education system, and I was hit with a question that the pastors refused to let me answer, ended up leaving and got into the car industry, long story short. Hashem directs our paths.
Sure.
But I ended up spending now 27 years dealing with a matter that had to, that I researched. And so when it comes to Torah, there's nothing new under the sun. But you talked about growth in Hashem and that little neshama that's part. Is there not room for discovery? Great discovery and growth. Each and every one of us, there's great discovery out there, but there's also discovery for all of mankind. I'm confident there are new things. Like I know Terry's a Star Trek fan. A lot of people love that notion of that, boldly go where no man has gone before and seek out new things. I know there's a lot more to learn, especially for us as B'nai Noach. But what about discovery is my point.
Okay, that's an excellent question. If you're talking about discovering, like climbing Mount Everest and getting to the top of Mount Everest, or hopping to the moon, or going to Mars and space travel, sure, that's out there. But what we're teaching here is that you're going to discover about life, your life. You're going to discover how God wants life to live. And he wants life to live and walk a path that is devoid of man-made religion. It doesn't exist. And we're not a religion. We're just a lifestyle. So you can adapt that lifestyle to whatever you do. You want to go out on the Star Trek Enterprise? Have a good ride, but take the Torah with you. You see, of course, everything is there. Everything that man can do has already been created by God. We just haven't got there yet. Think about this. God could have said to Noah, okay, pull out your iPhone and download what I'm about to tell you. Now, why couldn't God do that? It's not that the iPhone didn't exist already. Of course it did in the future. But mankind wasn't ready to use that technology yet. So it waited till mankind caught up with it. It was already there. It was already created by God. We, as godlike creatures, because he created us in his image, can take anything he created and discover its secrets and put it together, his creation, like a puzzle. What did Bill Gates do in his garage? He took all the things that were already there that God had already created, and he said, okay, this part goes here, and this part goes here, and this part goes over here, and whoops, look what we got. We got a computer. See? But it had already existed, but in separate parts. So if we decide, well, look, we got a space station up there now. And we got private industry now supplying the space station. That's okay. There's nothing wrong. That's a different kind of discovery. That's a kind of discovery where we're putting together different parts of God's creation to make a new technology or a new airplane or a new land speed record. But always we carry with us the Torah. It's with us how we act, how we treat people, how we treat what we discover. And right now, I think we're getting a little lesson from God. Look at what we're doing right now. All of us are, I think most of us are in shutdown or lockdown wherever we live. You look out the windows, you don't see cars, you don't see people walk, but are we in lockdown? Get serious. We're here together with a community. We're enjoying it. We're having a study. We have our friends with us. So this technology had to be here for this time. And somebody discovered the technology. It was just they're waiting for it. The people that put together the Zoom room, which has been around for 3-4 years or maybe more, people are just discovering it now. Everything you do today, Zoom room, Zoom room, Zoom room. Let's open up a Zoom room. And you can do it for free if you want. They allow you 40 minutes of time for any one class, or you can pay that's not a big fee, and you can just have unlimited time and unlimited classes. But the Zoom room now has become our way of talking to people. and spending time, intimate time with people. So yes, you can discover all kinds of things, but as we discover it, we have a job to do. When we discover something and how to use it, we then have to discover how to use it for God. I don't know if any of you guys were around when the internet first started out back in the late 80s, in the early 90s. Do you remember what the internet was back then? What it turned to as soon as you had graphics and as soon as you could put up movies? You probably heard in your church, it's a tool of Satan. It's a tool of the devil. Well, guess what? What's it doing today? This same thing. See, here it is right here. And it's not a tool of anybody but God. But we discovered it and we started to use it for the wrong use. Human beings did. So there is discovery, absolutely. And it's exciting. It's exciting to do new adventures and do new things, climb mountains, sail around the Atlantic all by yourself, or take a rocket ship somewhere. But you'll always carry with you God's way of life. And that's the important thing. It's always with you. Go ahead, Terry.
Scotty's got his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see it.
No, I was just absorbing what you were saying, Pesach. I have two questions, one for Cole, and then one for you, Pesach. But the one for Cole, in doing what you do, being observant and aware when you are amongst the Jewish brethren that Hashem has put you there, does that help you to walk in the outside world among the nations better, so that you're aware of what's going on out there? Somebody doesn't have to just come out and ask you something. It's making you aware of the needs of the nations. Do you find that happens to you?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. The more that I become aware of Hashem's will for me anyways, the more that when I go out into the community, I see things in a different light. You know, I was just at a friend's house. I'm trying to stay in all I can, but there's a member of the Jewish community who's elderly, and he's in poor health. So I went grocery shopping for him today, and he came outside for a little bit, and we stayed our distance while we were changing groceries back and forth. And he was saying hello to a couple people that walked by, and I told him, I said, you know, Reb Gershon, you got to watch that right now because of the this virus. You can't just stop and talk to everybody. And he told me, he said, yeah, but I see God in everybody, so I want to talk to him. And, you know, stuff like that just blows me away, you know, because it makes me realize that when I do talk to people, when I come into contact with people, when they ask me about, you know, oh, you're Jewish? No, I'm not Jewish. I'm a Noachide. Well, you got a hat on your head like a Jewish person. That gives me a door to stop and give them one of these cards that I held up the other night and showed Rabbi Pesach. And it gives me a chance to plant the seed about what a Noachide is. That there's something else out there, that you don't have to be an idolater. That because the only thing I ever knew up till 20 years ago was you're either Jewish or you're Christian, or you're one of the other religions, you know. But I didn't know there was anything such as a Noachide. I had no idea. You know, so the more I get into the Jewish side of things, I guess, the more it makes me aware when I'm out and about. You know, like I keep kosher. I don't go to, you know, God forbid I should go to a non-kosher restaurant and then somebody walks by and see somebody with a yarmulke eating in a kosher restaurant. You know, you don't want things like that to happen, you know. So it makes me more aware of where I go and what I do and how I handle myself, you know, most of all. And that's all from just learning the ethics that Hashem wants us to do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just the way he wants us to live.
So, Pesach, my question to you is, was you through, Cole? That was great.
Yeah, yes.
Great. Pesach, my question to you is just a little more elaboration on what you were talking about, and then just to ask you a question on it. You know, there's a lot of people that want to, when they come from the other religious backgrounds, and then they see the error of their ways and they attach themselves to a rabbi. And thank you, Pesach, for being my rabbi and teaching me. But I've heard you say, you know, we learn to teach. Yes, we do that. But we more learn to live among the nations. We're learning more on how to live, right? Is that our main goal for attaching to a rabbi and learning?
That's a really good question, and it's hard to answer, and I'll tell you why. Yes, it's helping you and personally. It's helping you become a better person and walk better, but it's also doing something else. It's making the light inside of you glow brighter, which helps other people. So it's a dual purpose thing. The more you learn and the more you walk in the way of Torah, which is God's plan for all life, from beginning to end, the written and the oral Torah, the more you learn about it and you adjust your life to walk that way, which is fixing you and giving you a closer relationship with God, it makes that light within you glow stronger and brighter, although you may not see it. But the nishamot, that part of other people that just walk by you, your neshama talks to their neshama. Maybe it doesn't even go through their mind sometimes. When I started getting all involved with this, I did a little experiment just for the heck of it. When I was in the States, I was like in a mall. Remember those days? You could go to the mall and be with all kinds of people. That if you watched carefully the people you were walking by, and you were walking properly, you didn't have a frown on your face, you just looked like you were enjoying what was going on. Kids will look at you and smile. Kids will just look up and smile at you. And then, every once in a while you see an adult go, ooh, they'll grimace. Why? Because your soul's touching their soul, and they didn't like that. It interferes with their me. And their soul knows that. So it produces a bad look on their face. Some will look at you and smile. So it's a twofold thing, Scotty. We're showing you how to walk in the reality of the God of Israel, in the way he wants every human being to walk, not in a religious way, but just simply a way of life. And by walking that way of life, the stronger you get at it, the more your light burns to help others. What happened to Moses when he came down off of Mount Sinai? He didn't know that his face was all a light and a glow, but the children of Israel couldn't even look at his face. He said, cover your face so we can see you. Hide that light. And he did, but as soon as he turned back to God, he took it off his face. He wasn't going to cover his face before God. Eventually, you see that when you start walking with God, that light within you burns brighter and brighter. When the closeness of God at the particular time is what gives you that. You call it a glow, you call it whatever you want. But it's emanating from you, and other people can feel it. But when you slow down a little, you stop down, you're learning a little bit, and you're not doing quite as much, it goes away. It's not as strong. You constantly got to feed it. Now, there's some great, maybe I'll have to bring one next week when we meet. There's a book about the Hanukkah, Hanukkah, call it a menorah, but it's actually a Hanukkah. And it explains why you use an oil one. It explains what the lights are. Essentially, we are the vessel for that light to shine through. We fill it with oil. The oil is our trust in God, our learning, and the more pure our oil is, as it burns up to God, it lights that flame up there, the flame burns in a cleaner way. it burns stronger. And there's a wick that goes up, and in between the wick and the flame, if you ever look carefully, there's a black spot in there. It's like the fire isn't attached to the wick. The purer that oil that you produce inside of you is, the more beautiful the flame is. The more impure it is, the flame flickers around a little bit, maybe gets a little smaller. And it's such a beautiful analogy to what it's all about. And we're totally in charge of the oil that goes in our vessel. We can put as pure oil as we can, or we can mix it up with all kinds of stuff. It's that simple. And so I love the analogy of the flame. It's such a beautiful thing. And you know, when we light the Shabbat candles on Friday night, and my wife does the blessing over them, and this is a Chabad custom. Maybe some others do it, but I know Chabad does it. After the candles are lit and the prayers are said, you sit down and you stare at the candles. You meditate for at least 20 minutes. Some people do it longer. And you just take everything out of your head and meditate on that light. And you'll find out that things will come up inside of you that you want to say to God and that you want to learn. And it's a great time to talk to God. And then, of course, we get up and we go to prayer after that. But it's a neat time. And you guys certainly can light candles on Friday evening to welcome the Shabbat. It's no problem. If you don't, you don't. It's okay. You're not under any form of commandment by God to do it. But it's the Sabbath peace just comes into the house. The Sabbath peace comes into you. And you know what? The hardest thing for any of us to do, I believe, and you guys will find, if you decide to turn off your electronics for 25 hours, no phone, no computer. I mean, you don't have to. Maybe try it for 2 hours and see how you feel. But it's a weird feeling when you start doing it. But all you want to do is reach for your phone, go look at the computer screen until you get out of the habit. Then I get to the point where, okay, so half an hour before Shabbat, shut everything down. And then right after Shabbat, we aren't running to turn it on again. And my kids get upset with me sometimes because when the grandkids want to talk to us, and we just kept them off for a while, the computers and stuff. So I hope that answers your question, Scotty, but the two things go hand in hand, actually. Now, look, anybody out there listening, anybody watching this, if you really want to get involved in helping out in a positive manner, and I'm saying this not in a derogatory fashion because it's a stage of life that a lot of people go through, you have to be finished looking behind you. You don't want to keep talking derogatorily about what you left behind. You don't want bad feelings about what you left behind. Why? Because if you didn't go through it, you wouldn't be where you are today. So why feel bad about it? You got to constantly turn around and go forward on the path that God has you go forward on, without feeling animosity to where you were, without holding grudges about where you were, just walking forward. And everybody that helps us out is in that position. They're finished with the bashing of where they were. And once you grow up enough to leave that behind, and it's growth. I'm not saying it in a derogatory manner at all. It's just when you lose a loved one, you go through the stages of mourning. There's the stages people go through when they walk away from this thing that they thought was the truth for all those years. And they're normal, healthy stages to go through. And it helps you get past it. We're all of us, every single one of us on this planet going through something right now. And it's a little scary. And sometimes it can overwhelm our thoughts. But it's okay for that to happen for a short period of time. And for us to release emotion, then go forward again. Always trusting that God's going to make everything okay. It's going to be okay. However it turns out, it's okay. Because he's in control. the part of the script that you have to control is how you operate yourself. Everything else, he's in charge of the script. We're just walking through it. And we just have to trust him that what's going on is good for us. Gamzu Latova. This is also good. And by the way, Cole, for your information, he's buried 3 blocks from here.
Oh, wow. Rabbi Gamsulatova?
Yeah, and they have
That's
a
a
very
great
nice
story. That's a great
Yeah.
story.
He's got it's a nice pavilion, and you go by there 24 hours a day. There's always somebody sitting in there, either praying or reading Psalms. Somebody always needs this. You know, when you sit down next to a tzaddik in their burial site, you get strength from them.
Yeah.
You're not praying to them, but you gain strength from who they are, not who they were, from who they are.
Yeah.
So it bolsters you as an individual, especially if you know what a wonderful, righteous person this person was. So there's also a guy named Benjamin Tzaddik, Benjamin the Righteous, who's buried another 2 blocks in another direction from here. We've got all over the place around Sfat.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Now, how far is Safat from Tel Aviv?
95 kilometers, 100 to the north. Right up to, you go out to the Sea of Galilee and to Tiberias and just climb the hill. You can see it.
Yeah, I've got a friend from Sahala.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Tel Aviv, from the
Tel Aviv
neighborhood.
Oh boy, they're having a tough time in Tel Aviv right now.
Yeah,
but yeah, I go everywhere by train now because when they're running, they're not running right now, but it's much easier than driving. But I can get from here to Tel Aviv in about an hour and 50 minutes, something like that. Jerusalem, just about 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and a half on highway. And we got beautiful new highways. But it's like living in 2 different places. Tel Aviv is like any town you go into in America, and you'd think you were in America with the malls and everything else. And you come up to where we are, and it's a little village with cobblestone streets and on the side of a hill. And it's one of the 4 holy cities of Israel. It's a city of Ruach, of spirit, of wind, of Shekhinah. And during the other classes, we can talk about that if you have some questions or something. But most all of the Jewish mystical, Kabbalistic writings, and also the Shulchan Aruch, or the book of how we walk our life, came from Sfat.
Wow.
All of them. People over the centuries came, tens of centuries, like not 1 or 2 or like 20 centuries, would come, these spiritual people would come from all over the world, would come to Sfat. And that back then there was no internet and no, hey, come up to Sfat, what a great place it is. They got here from Egypt, and they got here from Morocco, and they got here from Yemen, and they got here from places across Europe. And they came here one after another in different centuries. In other words, and came here to study, learn, and then God would take them on this deep journey, and they would relate it to us. A lot of these people have one thing in common. Even though they gave us these spiritual books, they all died young, in their mid-30s, middle 40s. And the people, I asked a question of someone who is a lot smarter than I am. I said, it seems kind of weird that they all died right around a certain age in life. And he read me something that, and I don't remember where it's from, but I'm going to go back and ask him so I can get it. When God sends someone to give a message to us, in other words, like Hari and his writings, and Rashbi, his writings in the 12 years he spent in seclusion writing, and when their writings get to a certain point, God doesn't want them to reveal any more than what they revealed, and they know it, and he knows it. And they could reveal more, but he's not ready for it to be revealed to the world yet. They go home to be with God. And this is a whole nother learning and everything, but I'm just going to leave it that way for now. We can get into all kinds of fun, exciting stuff. But the only way you can actually hear it is if you come and let the information come into you and not judge it as it's going in. Have you ever been somewhere with somebody to listen to a speaker, and as the speaker's speaking, this person is saying, well, I don't believe that. No, I heard from somebody else it's this way. And they're constantly knocking the speaker you're listening to. They're not listening. They're thinking. You're sitting there trying to get the information, and it doesn't make any difference to you, all this other extraneous information this person is giving you, but this person insists on giving it to you. It's important that we stop that way of thinking. Each and every one of you have to stop that way of thinking. Receive information, think about it, meditate on it, and go on from there. We're not judges of somebody else's information. Now, of course, there's a lot of fake information out there, but something's going to happen in you that when you hear it, you'll know it immediately. You'll know immediately, but this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is fake. And you can shut it down and walk away. I've been at the point for years when I go to read some kind of article or even some scientific stuff that people say, I start reading it, and in Hebrew we call it a hush. It's all I can tell you is a gut feeling. You just know it's not good information you're reading. I don't need this information. The guy's got everything based on wrong thinking. And you feel it immediately. You just close the book, go the other way. Turn them off on the internet, go the other way. It's like when you eat something and put it in your mouth, the minute it goes in your mouth, you know if you like the taste or not. Well, it's just the same thing's going to happen to you up here. You're going to become that good at reading stuff and understanding stuff and listening to stuff. I just want to put out, and I say this every once in a while, before you start reading anything, even if you say, oh, this looks great, I'm going to read it, stop and go find out what is behind the person that's saying it. There's a lot of fakers out there. There's a lot of people that want to take people like you, intelligent people, have good connections with God, and break that connection. They do it. You can't think that way. You got to think the way I think. Because I got it right and you got it wrong. So you just got to be careful when you do that. That's all. But you'll get used to it. It's like anything else you practice. The more you practice, the stronger you become at it. It's not hard. Things become, let's say, automatic. You know, how does a good piano player become a good piano player, a concert piano player? Is it because, oh man, look at his fingers, look how great he is. He simply trains his muscles and his mind to do what he wants them to do automatically. He practices enough so when he sits down at a keyboard or picks up a guitar or picks up a flute, whatever instrument he plays, automatically music starts coming out. But he's done that not because he's sitting there going, what note comes next and what note comes next. He's trained his body and his mind automatically to produce this. A swimmer does it. A weightlifter does it. A guy that knows karate or jujitsu or taekwondo, they spend hours and hours and hours training their body. It's like a beautiful dance that they go through. If you've ever seen them, what have they done? They've trained their body to move in a certain way under certain conditions so they don't have to think about it when it's going on. Just poof, it happens. Somebody goes like this to them, they can do what they got to do to defend themselves. You're training your mind and your body simply to walk the way God wants you to walk on his pathway. And it's a dance almost. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But you got to sometimes it's too hard. I'm not going to do this. I have to remember this all the time. The point is, if you remember it enough times, you don't have to remember it anymore. You've trained your mind and your body just to do it. You see a Jewish person go through a doorway, what do you see? Gary? Yeah. Every Jewish person, man or woman, goes through a door, you see. Do you think they're even thinking about it? Now, they're not, you know how hard it is not to do it now that we've been told not to do it?
I'll be honest with you, even though I've, didn't finish going through conversion, I haven't been in a Jewish place in a long time, and I would say that I would do it not thinking about it. I'd like visit if my Jewish friends still lived here in Cleveland, I'd probably not even think about it and do it.
It just becomes like an automatic thing. It's so funny. I look. I have three.
One thing, it's like
Yeah.
I still, I spent 6.5 years studying for conversion. I've been out of that since 2016 when we came to see that Hashem wanted us to be a Noahide. But to this day, even with this prayer book, when I'm davening in the morning or whenever I do nothing, when I'm done,
It just becomes automatic.
I do. If I got my Tehillim and I'm reading something, I close it. It's just part of who I am now.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. You see now when people go in and out of doors here in Israel, everybody goes like this, and then they'll go up and go like this, and you'll see their hands stop in midair because we're told not to do that right now. We're told not to do that specific act. So we're retraining our bodies. And believe me, when this is all over, we're going to have to retrain them again because we're going to forget to do it when they lift off whatever it is they've got on us for stopping it. How about some more questions there, folks?
I have a question that's come to my mind today.
Hmm.
I'm going to try to frame this correctly. Right now, I work for a company that's deemed essential. So I go to work, my wife and I go to work every day. We do see that there may be some slowing and stopping of that in the future, but right now we're there every day. But there are a lot of people who are at home, working from home. But like with my job, my wife could work from home, but I can't. I can't box and ship parts that's not in my house. So I know that Hashem at times in the scriptures we see the provision, like with the manna and stuff when he gave them. But as a ben Noah, we know Hashem is our source. And I learned a lot from Rabbi Brody on this issue. And he's our source. And we want to continue in our emunah and our bid'akum, our trust. But when we're shut up in home without an income to provide for us, is there a prayer? Is there something that we can lean on Hashem with, knowing we're not the Jewish people and the manna is not going to come down? But I don't know. I'm having a hard time forming my question. But is there some way we can, when we're shut up in our homes and there's no income, and He gives us our parnasa, how do we pray? How do we lean on that? Him providing out of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because we trust Him with our jobs, but when there is no job, that's going to be a test. That's going to be a test for a lot of us, I think. I know it will be for me.
That's a great question, and it's true. And I've been without a job for quite a few years, but not under the same circumstances. But you understand, He will provide a door that'll open when one closes. I mean, you've seen it happen in your own life before. We can, when we talk to Him, we pray to Him, aside from if you want to use the prayers like in Brit Olam prayer book, you speak to Him with your own heart and with your own words, explain to Him what's troubling you. can I tell you that tomorrow you're gonna get a phone call from somebody say, hey, Terry got a job for you, or Cole, come on over and work over here, or something like that. That's not gonna happen because we don't presume that he's just gonna do something. We have to do something to bring forward what he's doing. Now here in Israel, we're sitting at almost a 30% unemployment rate of the country. We were at 4% before this started. 4%, now we're at 30%. People are 30% of the people in this country don't work anymore. That's an astounding figure. That's like during days of depression. But what's going on is the government steps in and helps out, and God steps in and helps out. Dan, you wanted to?
Yeah, Pesach, you mentioned 30%. That's huge. That's such a high number. Now, I'm under the impression that that's because a lot of Israel is related to tourism, and tourism shut down. I mean, I live in a small community, and Angelica knows where I live. We're about a 35,000 population city, small city. But our main economy here is tourism as well, and it's seasonal because we're in Canada. So we get really very little tourists in the winter. But is not a lot of Israel's income related to tourism, and since like cruise ships are shut down and planes can't get there, you know, and for tourists, and you've got all the holy cities there and sites to see. So is that because tourism is shut down, or is there other veins? Like I know where I am, we have farming, we have tourism and construction, and construction's a little working right now, but yeah, tourism, we expect to have a dead season, and we know we're just filled with hotels that are going to be vacant and empty. You know, we've got trailer parks where a lot of people in the summertime come with their mobile homes and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're pointing out something that is correct. A good portion of Israeli economy is tourism, but that's just been built up over the years. I mean, we have industry here. We have research institutions for like Intel, and Google has a big place here. And I mean, we're a real big high-tech place also. And what happens is, yes, the tourism happens, but because of what's going on, they're shutting down all businesses, anything they deem as non-essential for life support, which means a lot of these businesses are sitting empty, which means people aren't getting paid. And if you're not getting paid, you don't buy services and products. You don't buy as much food. So what happens in the food industry? Start closing places, or you start reducing your employees. So it has an overall effect. Oh, wow, isn't it great? Our gas prices went down by 17 or 18%. Well, that's good, but who's going anywhere? You know, and the economic guys say, call up your insurance company and freeze your auto insurance. Tell them you're not using it anyway. Why pay for it? You know, what happens to the insurance company? They got to put people off too. The thing is just, it has it's not even a ripple effect. It's like a tsunami effect going from one person to the next. And schools close. In America, I know the teachers I've talked to, they get paid 12 months a year anyway. So whether they're teaching or not teaching, they're going to get a salary. But most other Americans aren't in that kind of employment. And the people that employ them haven't got the money to help them out. So it's a terrible thing. You know, you go in the grocery store and you want to get all this stuff, and you're back to, I don't know if you guys remember this or even went through it, when I was a young married couple, and you had this little bit of income coming in, and you put all these groceries in the basket, you get to the checkout counter, and whoops, I got about 18 things I don't need here because I don't have the money for it. You know, I really want this, but I'm not going to put it in a shopping cart because I don't have enough money for it. You're going back into that type of thing, and unfortunately, a lot of people are making those decisions for their children now. The children can't just put in the shopping cart whatever they want, and it hurts people in an emotional way, but it hurts the economy even more. Amuela said the other day, she's saving $200 a month because she doesn't go to Tim Hortons for coffee and biscuit or something in the morning. Well, she's not the only one that's not going to Tim Hortons in the morning. So what happens at Tim Hortons? They had 10 waitresses. Now they're down to 4. They were serving X amount of food. Now they're the whole thing is also connected together. It's just amazing. The airlines. Yes, Martha, you wanted to say something? Terry, you want to unmute Martha, please?
Yes. There you go, Martha.
No, do it again.
There you go,
Okay.
Martha.
I heard something, it was either this morning or yesterday, but the beginning of Nissan, they had the blessing of the trees, and they were bringing out in their teaching that the prayer that we have for it, it's blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, that his world is not lacking anything. And then it goes on and say, and he created in it good creations and good trees for the pleasure of mankind. But he really pointed out, we are not lacking anything. And that just gives me a lot of hope and trust and knowing that I'm going to be provided for.
You are so right. And that's a great observation. God provides every living being with what it needs to live. I mean, it's us, and it's also the animals, and it's also the flowers, and it's also the trees. Whatever is needed to exist, God supplies it. He doesn't create people and then say starve to death. Man does that. God doesn't do that. But sometimes what he creates for us, or what he gives us, is a lot less than we think we should have. Because all of us live beyond our means. All of us, what's happening right now? I've gone up 4 pounds in 5 weeks. I don't like that, but that's what's happened. So I got to put the brakes on. I'm eating too much. Where I'm eating too much, got too much in the house. I didn't have to have all this in the house. So you're right, Martha. God provides you and everyone else with your needs, not your wants. Your needs is a huge difference. And when we can learn to live with our needs and not our wants, we've made a huge step forward. That answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
May I ask a question about one of the Psalms?
Yeah, you absolutely may.
My computer's not pulling it up. It's Psalm 139. It goes through and talks about basically I can't hide from God. And that even if I'm in the depths of the sea, he's going to see me and hold me in his right hand. But the very end of that psalm, it talks about he's going to show me how to live and show me the ways of the world. I hadn't really noticed that before. And I just wondered if you knew what he meant by that.
You're muted, Pesach.
139, right?
Yes.
Okay. I can't tell you exactly what God means because he thinks his own way, and I don't think, my mind is not as great as his because he's infinite. But what right at the end, you're saying, what did you say? The words you said at the end? You created my range. You got me to my rooms. Who mentioned you as wicked? I think I'm on the right psalm.
You want me to read 139?
Well, it's it's like 24 lines, and she was mentioning something right at the end.
23 and 24 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any way in me that is grievous, and lead me in the way everlasting."
Is this what you were talking about? Unmute, Martha, please. Wait a minute, Martha. We got to unmute you. Terry, you got that?
I got it.
Okay.
Okay. It says, "Search me, Lord, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is a vexing way in me, then lead me in the way of the world."
Okay. This is a pretty good explanation. Search me out and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. When God tests us, Abraham went through 10 tests. Moshe went through 10 tests, right? These tests were not tests like you're doing you're taking an examination, you pass or fail. These are tests to show them, because God already knew who they were, how strong they were so they could go on and be stronger in what they're doing. Sometimes you have to go through, it's called tempering when you do it with steel or with making metals. It's called tempering. So what is being said here is, of course, God knows who we are. Of course, God, he knows exactly who we are. But here was a surrender to God. Search me out and know my heart. I'm surrendering to you. I'm hiding nothing from you. Of course, you can't hide anything from God, but it's the admittal that you cannot hide anything from God. It's you feeling it and knowing it yourself. You're admitting to yourself that God knows everything you do. You can't hide from him, not one single thing. And then he's saying, okay, now that I've humbled myself before you, now that I've opened myself up, he's opened himself up so he can hear. You've opened yourself up so you can hear, because you've taken yourself out of the way. You say, okay, God, you already know who I am. You know all this stuff. I'm admitting, yes, you know all this stuff. Now show me where I'm wrong. Help me get straight. And because you've gone to him and said, David said this, I don't know how many times in the Psalms, all through the Psalms. And show me how I'm supposed to go in the way of the world means, how do I walk in this life with this? How do I show Torah to others through me?
That makes sense.
And it's like we talked about earlier when we were talking with Dan about discovery. Is there nothing new to discover? Of course there is plenty. In the way of the world, there's plenty to discover. But we're supposed to take the way of God and inject it into whatever we discover so that it becomes lifted up and holy, dedicated to God. And not in the way that religions do it, in the way that God wants it done. And Rashi says here, whether there's any vexatious way about me. Boy, they used some words back in the day. Anyway, is there something that, any kind of thing that is making me deteriorate, go away from my connection with you? So you're humbling yourself, you're going before God and say, okay, God, I know who I am, and I know that you see everything I do, and I admit that, and I admit you know all my thoughts. Now help me put them together in the proper way to work for you. Point me in the right direction. And you get that just by praying and by reading. You, just like now, you read something in the Psalms you maybe never saw before, and it clicks something that you wanted to know, what does it mean? That simply means that you've come to a little higher level of understanding. When you read something into Tanakh or in the writings, if you read something that you've never seen before, understand it's because your knowledge has grown enough that you can then see that what it is there. You didn't have enough knowledge to see it yet. And it's a constant growth. And I don't care how old you get. I don't care how many times you read the Torah and the writings and the prophets. You will always see something new. It's always there because your own knowledge base grows, and as the knowledge base grows, you're able to take on more and more information. So you see things you never saw before. It's called revelation. The good revelation. Okay, does that answer your question there for you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good for you. Now, I know Terry's looking something up there. Always know you grab your book and start reading, Terry. You got anything you want to add to that?
Well, what's interesting is in the art scroll, the last word of that psalm is not translated world, where it says olam. It's translated as eternity. It says, and see, verse 24, and see if I have vexing ways, and lead me in the way of eternity. And the Art Scroll commentary hold on, let me get over here close. And the Art Scroll commentary, did y'all hear what I said? I forgot I was away from my mic.
Yeah. No, we heard you.
The commentary in the Art Scroll says there's a dual meaning in these words. David realized that his progeny was divinely designated as the first family of Israel for all time. He and his seed were to lead the Jews in the way of eternity. Therefore, he implored God to guide him.
Yes.
I found that. And it goes a little bit deeper, but it deals more with David and his lineage. But
Right.
that part I think was really good. Is we can implore, God knows, as it said here, he knew the destiny of David to be his lineage to be the first family of Israel, use words of today, but he implored God to guide him into the ways of eternity.
Yes. See, a lot of the words in Hebrew have double meanings.
Yeah.
And like olam means world, but also means forever.
Mm-hmm. Leolam Bayed.
Right, forever and ever. And so what we're reading, I'm reading the one that up on the Chabad website says, lead me in the way of the world. But you could also put, lead me in the way of eternity,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm supposed to do. And these are things, of course, you've studied more years, and so you have a greater knowledge base for this type of thing, which is good. The point is, God's going to show you, if you allow him to show you, he will show you the way he wants you to walk as a person.
Right.
And he doesn't want you to be a robot. That's the most important thing.
Now, to go back to what Dan asked earlier about discovery, I have studied the conversation God had with Cain years before I left Christianity, and ever since. Probably somewhere since 2005, 2006, I felt led to start reading those two verses and meditating on them. And here it wasn't but a little bit ago, about a month ago as I was studying that again in the Hebrew through Rabbi Hirsch. I discovered something I did not know about that message. And so discovery is going to be a part, especially of us that are Noahites, because we don't have the traditions, 4,000 years of study of the Hebrew behind us. So for me, it's a new discovery. Even if something I've looked at for almost 15 years, I discovered something new, by learning from, someone who is much more knowledgeable than I am in the Hebrew. And so it's almost every day for me, I find something new. And I relate that back to Proverbs chapter 2, is to search it as a hidden treasure.
Absolutely. That's an absolutely wonderful observation. I didn't take the word discovery in the same, see, you took it in the way you're thinking, and it means something else to you, but I took it as discovery of new things and traveling out in space and stuff like that.
It is new. It is new. For us, there's a lot of new. I mean, for our teachers, it won't be new, but for us, it is. It is. For me, it's a discovery. I'm like a kid in a candy shop when I read something, and I'm like, ah! I run and talk to my wife, and I mean, she loves that kind of stuff too, And I'm look what I just learned.
Would you believe that it happens to everybody the same way? I'm constantly discovering new things, constantly seeing something new, constantly learning something new. The minute you stop having that experience, you're in trouble.
And it's probably granite above my head.
You're just in trouble the minute you stop having that type of experience. It's something that should be with you forever and ever. That wonder of discovery of something new that you didn't know before. It takes you to a new level, allows you to discover more things. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about discovery. Now, maybe this now don't let this be challenging in any way, shape, or form, but I find God has led humanity a long way. Yes, we stand on the shoulders of giants, but Hashem has led us a long way in the sense of growth. When it comes to certain matters, we know that the rabbis, like you said earlier, have haggled this stuff for thousands of years. They've gone back and forth. They've got so much to offer. But I find there's still many, many, many areas where there's opinions on both sides of the matter. Okay, you're dealing with like a topic, and it could go either way, and it's not known. And in that respect, that could be a discovery, settles the matter on a debate. And yet, I find that when you're dealing with a matter that could go either way, it's either this way or that way. There's debates pro and against, for and against, but nothing decisive. But then evidence comes to light. And when something comes to light that actually shows it decisive, and I'm not talking about things that could be contrary to Torah, because frankly, I believe the Torah is all encompassing, and that any genuine evidence that will ever be discovered does fit within, there's nothing in Torah like Rabbi Yehuda Alevi had said, heaven forbid there ever be something that doesn't align with Torah to be discovered. And right. So it's just when you're dealing with a matter like that could go one way or the other, somebody has to be in the wrong and fall by the wayside. People tend to get offended with that. People tend to get disappointed with that. And it causes rifts or issues. Now, Rabbi Pesach, somebody's got something showing up on your screen, an image of a sketch of a couple of Jewish people. It's blocking your face.
On my screen?
Yeah, it's gone now. Okay, yeah, it's gone now.
No idea what it is.
Okay, I was just saying that's what it was broadcasting. Okay, it's fine now. But yeah, there was like I found myself in a debate, a point one time when I first early met Terry, a couple of years ago. Question like, say, the flood, is it global or is it local? I talk, you hear Rabbi Tovia Singer, complete global, but then you have another rabbi, no, it only happened here. When you're dealing with a matter like that, it could go either way. And I know that there are many, many, many of these that rabbis have debated for a lot of years. I know that as gentlemen scholars, they can admit, hey, evidence has leaned one way or the other. But and opinion, what I find most honorable about rabbis is that as fierce as they will debate to look at the whole of the matter, it's just glorious to see that they'll debate to actually decipher, digest, and bring to light the whole of a matter. But there are still many, many matters that I know people are waiting for a Mashiach to come and conclusively answer, and then there's still lots of life to progress afterwards. How do we deal with issues that could go one way or the other? If we take a decision on one side and it's incorrect, we've all made mistakes, and we do teshuvah if we've stood on a position that might have been less than ideal. But we always seem to make the decisions based upon the evidence that we have at hand. And I know that there's still many, many, many matters. Though Hashem knows all about all, there are still many, many matters that humanity will come to grips with. And the whole concept of Mashiach is that a lot will become revealed that humanity just hadn't thought of.
You're absolutely right, and it's a very good observation. And when you read the Talmud and you read the Talmud, the Gemara, they're conversations between people, but these conversations go on for centuries. We have our sages, then we have the Rishonim, the first people that came after, then we have the Achronim, the people that came after them, and up until today, we still have Torah scholars, and the debate rages on about certain things. I mean, a simple little thing about how you light the Chanukiah. Hillel says, Shammai says, you light all the candles the first night, and each night you take one off. Hillel says, no, you light one light the first night, including the what they call the shomer, the guard on top, and you add a light because the light grows over the 7 days. It doesn't diminish. They're both right in their way of thinking, and it's okay. But when are we going to get the decisions of all those things that we're not sure of? Look, when you study Jewish halakha, the way to do things, if there's a debate about something, the way to do it, you do what your rabbi tells you to do. This is you're sitting at his feet, and he tells you this is the way we do it. Then you just do it, and you're not. Neither one of the ways is wrong. They're both right. I know that's hard to take, but there's no right or wrong here because it doesn't violate Torah. Okay? And we know one thing for sure. Okay? And this is all the Jewish scholars agree on this. Before the Mashiach comes, something's going to happen. What do we do every Pesach? In the middle of the Pesach meal, we open our front door, and we hope that Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, is going to walk through the door and announce to us the Mashiach's on his way. But before the Mashiach gets here, two events are going to happen. One is every Jew will finally know what tribe they're from because all of our tribal records have been destroyed by other people over the centuries, and we just don't know, unless you're a Levite or a Cohen, we just don't know what tribe we belong to. It'd be nice to know what tribe we belong to. But we know we belong to Israel, so we just don't know which clan within it. And we will all know. It'll be like, poof, automatic. He's going to let people know. And those of you who consider yourself Noahides today, some of you will find out, wait a minute, I was wrong. I belong to Dan, or I belong to Shimon, or I belong to Naphtali. Because that knowledge will be made known to you by Elijah. Also, all disputes in Gemara will be resolved like that. And you know what? Nobody's going to say, oh, you were wrong, or I was right. They're going to say, wow, we finally got the answers. We finally got the definitive answer, because we are not allowed to make the definitive answer. We have to discuss it back and forth. There is no Sanhedrin to make some kind of ruling on it. Hasn't been one since Roman times. I mean, it was tried, they've tried to reintroduce it, but it just doesn't work. And we'll get all these answers, and then the Messiah is going to come. And because we will be ready as one community, the Jews and the righteous of the nations, as one community to welcome him. We will then be told, this is your, let me, drum roll please, this is your Messiah. That's how God got introduced to the world the same way back in the day of the Exodus. It was his debut to the world. The whole world saw what happened in Egypt. The whole world knew who he was. Everybody's hearts melted in fear in front of the God of Israel. And Jethro says to Moses, you know, I've worshiped them all, and I got to tell you, your God is the God. He realized it. He actually helped us receive Torah, and that's a long story that we can go into another time. The chief priest of Midianites helped Israel receive Torah. It's an amazing story. It's part of our oral history. But there will be no pride. There will be no disappointment. I was wrong. I followed the wrong thing. No, because right now, while you're following it, they're both right, because they don't violate Torah. And when two groups or two chachamim, really wise people, have differences of opinion about things, I'm going to give you a quick example. Today, there's a question about, today are produced these aluminum pans that you can put food in, and it has a cover, a little lip that you can fold over to close it, and you put a piece of cardboard in and you close it to seal it up. There's a debate among scholars, can you actually bend over that lip on Shabbat? Is it work, or is it not work? Is it called fixing a vessel, which means you're repairing that vessel to make it whole by sliding in the top and turning it over, which is against what we can do? Or is it something allowable because it's something we need to do for the convenience of everyday life? And the vessel, that aluminum pan, was produced to be used exactly that way. You don't need a lot of force to put it over. One group say, no, you can't do it. And the other group says, oh, what the heck? You just fold it over. It's made for that. It's like putting a cover back on a jar when you use it. Both are right. Whichever one they do is right. Why is it right? Because they're following who taught them what to do. And I asked an opinion of a rabbi about this, and he says, it's good you asked the opinion and didn't ask me for a ruling. Here's my opinion. You can't do it. Now, I went back to the man I always ask, the rabbi I always ask, because he is an absolute expert in this, and I trust him. And he says, oh, of course you can do it. So I said, okay, what is your ruling? He says, you can do it. Now I know I'm okay. I'm following the man that I'm following, this intelligent rabbi who spent his whole life studying these things, and I'm not going against Torah. If I'd asked the other one for a ruling and he said, don't do it, I couldn't then go to my guy and say, what do you think? You can't do that. You can't wander around till you get the answer you want. That's why you pick one and you go with that. But neither one of them are wrong. And there's no pride involved here when we get the truth of which is right. It's going to be, when Elijah comes, the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai, which have different opinions here and there, like which way to light the Hanukkah on Hanukkah, whatever Elijah says, that's it, done deal. Because he's bringing it straight from God. Remember this, there are two people that never died according to the Torah. God took them to walk with him. Enoch was one, and Elijah's the other one. some people say Elijah's still on earth here living in Tiberias. Could be. I don't know. He's never knocked on my door yet. But anyway, that's my answer to that particular question. There's no right or wrong. If we aren't violating Torah by doing what either one of them tell us, then they're both right.
Yeah, I see there are many matters that aren't worth separating over, aren't worth dividing over, aren't worth, you got to look at them with a grain of salt. But I still know there are some areas that I think Hashem's doing a wonderful work, especially in this day and age. It's just like this COVID-19. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are nervous. But I think those that trust in Hashem truly know something good is at work behind the scenes. And I'm excited just to see what Hashem has next for the world and for the generations to come. Now, Pesach, I don't want to be curt or anything, but we're nearing 2 hours. So
Yes,
you guys, I don't know how long you normally go, but I'm assuming a 2 hour time limit. But if you guys want to ask some more questions, do whatever. You tell me. It's your group.
Well, I really liked the recording, and not to go over about 2 hours. So the other night we went 2.5 hours, and one of the things
I noticed that. It's exciting. It's exciting. So people got lots to share.
Yeah, but unfortunately, people's attention span for sitting and watching something doesn't get to 2.5 hours. They have to take it in doses and so forth. So I think in the next 15 minutes, we're going to at least close with your broadcast on YouTube. But we'll still continue in the room, and Terry's recording it, and then we put it up with the unedited, everything version is always up there for people that want to sit and watch the whole thing. So probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we'll sign off on YouTube broadcast and Facebook broadcast, so we'll continue on in the room.
I must say. You guys do showcase beautifully a global community from all over, but you put it together in the Zoom room with this Torah for the Nations chat, and the people that are there are sharing and communing, literally communing, and it's beautiful to see. And I think it's so encouraging, and I hope other groups continue to do the same.
We certainly hope so. More and more groups are opening up now, even in the morning for prayer. Their Zoom rooms, although they're not can't be officially called a minyan because we're not in the same room, but people like to pray together and so forth. So they're doing it now because of the thing. Now, I want to mention one more thing that there's a big, what we call a machlekot, a disagreement on. Ashkenazim decided on Passover, we can't eat any beans or rice or things like that. But Sephardim say, they're not leavened. Why can't we eat them? And they've been eating them for centuries. Now, I can't all of a sudden, because I'm Ashkenazi and I follow Chabad and I follow the Ashkenazi way, I can't all of a sudden say, well, okay, for Passover, I'm going to be Sephardi, so I can have my rice and I can have my refried beans and that kind of stuff. You're not allowed to do that. Once you pick the path and you have a teacher, and he's guiding you, you stick with that teacher. And neither way is wrong. You must understand that. You don't have to make a decision what's right or wrong. They're both right because neither violates Torah. So it's not a question of choosing what might be right or what might be wrong. The most important thing for anyone to choose is their teacher, their rabbi. Why? It has to be someone you can communicate with, someone you can understand what they're saying. They speak in your language. I can't communicate with all the different teachers out there. Some of them I just don't understand. Some of them I just don't want to communicate with. I found myself, my teachers, my rabbis, and I go forward with that. When I say rabbis, I'm talking about the Rebbe, who I read all his stuff all the time, and the whole chain of the 7 leaders of Chabad, their insight and depth and the logic they put into it for me is just absolutely astounding. And I love to read it. And I love to be taught by people that know it. And so the choice is I walk this way. And you know what? I don't think there's any any part of Judaism that's stricter than Chabad is. It is the most, and everything you do is absolutely the strictest. I never thought I would go for that stuff. I mean, I was a me man, you know. But as I started learning, I realized, and I'm not knocking anything, but I'm not a Nana Nachman man, and I'm not a Breslov man. They learn in a different way, which wasn't conducive for me. And I didn't understand some of the things they taught the way they taught it. I found the one that worked with my mind and my heart. But do I read Rabbi Nachman's writings? Of course I do. Do I read the Breslov writings? Of course I do. Do I look at the Aish website? Of course I do. But I walk with Chabad. They're my teachers. You can always get some more insight from other places, but you stick to that pathway so that if you decide you're like, I know you've been walking with Rabbi Goldberg for a lot of years. You've chosen him to walk with because you have a connection and you understand the way he talks to you and the way you can understand. Everybody has to have their teacher like that. And I'm very happy that some of you have chosen me to walk that way. And I appreciate it. And if you haven't chosen me, it's okay. Come and learn anyway. It doesn't make any difference. We're all on the same page. We're walking God's way. But you do have to kind of line up with one teacher somewhere along the way. That's a teacher. You go, you ask a question, you get an answer, and you know, okay, I was answered, and I'm doing it. But you have to be careful when you choose your teacher. That's all, you know. You guys come from a place where everybody thought they were a teacher and everybody could give their interpretation. And if one didn't like the other, they just went, you know, poof, let's go set up across the street a new church. We don't do that. We don't do that. And when that new church gets set up, oh, we're good. Everybody else is going to wherever they're going to after they die. Come on. What human being can make that kind of decision? It just doesn't work that way. So we're information givers. We will teach you anything that you want, and you can, but we're going to tell you, get lined up with a teacher and walk with that teacher, have a relationship with that teacher. You want someone that's accessible. I know, Dan, that Rabbi Goldberg is accessible to you whenever you need him. The guys that are walking with me, they know all they can do is punch in there. Can you talk for a minute? I'm generally right there for them. And there are other teachers like that. And there's some that take a little time to get back to you and so forth. You want to try to pick the person that is right for you as an individual. Because you pick the wrong person, you're just going to get confused and you're going to stumble somewhere along the way in what you're learning. It won't sink in properly.
Yeah.
So every teacher is good, but not good for everybody. It's that simple. And I know, Dan, because of your relationship with Rabbi Goldberg and how excited you are to be a pupil of his and to work with him, I benefited from that. Believe it or not, that beautiful thing you did for us for the intro, I never asked you to do anything. And here you come to me and say, hey, look what I got for you. See, that's how it works. And we appreciate, my wife and I appreciate it very much, the time you spent going in there and doing that. It was a very good thing because I didn't know how to do it. So,
you know, Rabbi, or Pesach, the way I feel about it is it's a skill set. And just like Cole was sharing earlier today about, you know, he's doing what he can where he is. And I find myself, I can do that, right? It's something I've toyed and played with. And, you know, connecting with Rabbi Goldberg for me opened an opportunity for him and myself. And it became joy. It became what you're sharing about the connection you have with your people here. you know, when for me and Rabbi Goldberg, for me, I felt a great joy to share with him, and I was honored to be able to use the little skill that I have to actually help him share more message on a broader scale. And the truth is, you know, when he enabled me to do this with the Noahide World Center, and then he connected with you. I've known Terry Hayes for a couple of years now, and you know, and I've watched the growth, and I understand where he got, and you know, it's like, hey, we all are connected, and so it's got to be shared. And so, you know, hey, I threw it at you, let you see. I never try to do anything without somebody's approval. You know, nobody wants to be forward or offensive. But like you said, you know, if you connect with your rabbi, stick with your rabbi, because you're going to get the decisions that you need for the path that Hashem has put you on. And I think that's some pretty sound advice you gave.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am connected with Rabbi Goldberg. I've spent years looking where to connect. Someone I can connect with, an organization that has approvals. I don't want someone telling me, well, they're so good, that's why I should be with them and do it their way. No, I want someone that is covered by the rabbis here in Israel and covered by, they come out of Jerusalem. And for years I looked for that. For years I looked for people like Scotty and Terry. I mean, Terry will tell you, I read his.
They're champs.
I read his thing and I called him right away. We started to, I contacted him, and Scotty came along and I got with him. And Angela is helping out now, and hopefully we'll get that movie made, blowing the shofar and dancing. And I want everyone to participate in what we're doing and to have joy in what we're doing. And those of you that heard Ariel in here a couple of times, not on this meeting, but in our other meetings, I'm trying to get him to commit to give us 10 or 15 minutes every single meeting on the subject he loves to talk about. That's joy in walking with God. And everything you do is with joy. I know, Dan, that the stuff you do with Rabbi Goldberg and everything, it's an excitement for you and it's a joy for you. And that's the way it should be. And Terry and Scotty and everybody, Angela and Moella now is getting joyful. And Martha, everybody's just coming together, and we're walking in a positive, joyful manner with God, because that's what he wants from us, to do everything with joy in our hearts. And with that, Dan, we're going to close off the recording. And don't forget,
Thanks so much.
Let me just make one quick thing. Those of you that want to join us on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we're at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Go to B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, and there's a link to a different Zoom room, but it's a permanent link. In other words, once you have it, you just know at 10 o'clock on those 3 days, hit that button, and you're in the room with us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, everybody, I want to thank you for sharing. Terry, Scotty. We didn't hear from Thomas tonight. Cole, you shared some wonderful stuff. I know you got many other people in the room with you. It's always a joy to have wonderful people come together and share Torah. Couldn't be any better. It just makes the world a better place. And folks, we'll hopefully be back. Are we on next week? Because you said Terry's going to do a show.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in for sure to make sure we broadcast that as well. So, folks, until next Wednesday, this is Dan with Pesach saying farewell. Terry Hayes, everybody, have a great, great day.
Okay, you guys stick with me. Don't go away.
That's okay. They can't hear me anymore.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to go eat some dinner with my wife.
Enjoy.
Blessings. My wife this morning, she goes to work, right? My wife's in law enforcement. She's on her way to work at 6:30 in the morning here. And she calls me. She's like, we're in the mountains, right? She calls me. She's about 4 kilometers away around a bend, and she hit a deer with her Toyota.
Oh.
So she was all panicked, and so I had to go get her and get her car, had to get it dealt with. the poor dear, I'm thinking about the mercy, not the eat the limb of a living animal, but the poor thing had a broken hip, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? You can't get close to it because it's trying to scamper with 2 feet, and you feel so bad. Our RCMP come by. He's a Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Of course, he's got a rifle in the trunk, and he deals with it, right? But the sad thing is that that was the first thing that happened. But then my poor wife's car was crunched, and I had to make sure she was okay. So I got to go comfort her. I've had a long day. So bless you all, and thank you for having me. I'm out. Okay.
Hey,
Okay, Dan, thank you.
See you, Dan.
I work for a place that can get you some parts.
My best buddy was my best man. He's a senior manager with the Lexington Group.
No, I'm not a senior manager, but I do work in the parts.
Yeah, one headlight, and the whole front bumper clip, the hood, the front fender pushed into the door a little bit, but the airbags didn't go off, Terry. So at least she's safe.
I shipped every bit of that across the southeast.
Oh, well, my wife's a solid lady. I'm just, when she's a lady, I gotta go spend some time with her.
Okay.
Well,
Blessings. Okay,
okay, so I'm going to share something real quick for Martha.
go ahead.
She asked me about a page number, and I gave that to her for just in case for anyone else. What I was reading from was the Art Scroll Tanakh series Tehillim. It's a 2-volume set. I was reading from the 2nd volume, and here's what it looks like. I was on page, I think, what was that, 1646. And that's it's a 2-volume set, that thick, each set. It's almost a verse by verse commentary. It's a really good addition for your library for studying the Psalms. But that's what I was reading from.
Mary?
Go ahead, Martha.
Right now, Art Scrolls has all of their ebooks open during this time of the quarantine. So anyone can get any of their ebooks
Okay.
For free right now.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. That's good to know. Yeah, the Art Scroll, and they have the commentaries in there from the people they get commentaries for. You have Rabbi Hirsch does his commentary. You have Schoenfeld that does his commentary. They're just added. You add them all together, you get a much better picture of what you're reading, actually. So it's good to do that.
Discovery.
Yeah, there you go. Constant discovery. Anybody else have anything else they want to ask, say, talk about?
Thomas has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I want to thank you, Terry, for reading that, because I get, my mind's different, but I get confused sometimes because I read the Stone Edition tonight, and that Art Scroll that you read goes right along with it. But then I realized a lot of times people, I guess they read off Chabad,
Right.
and that's more like JPS.
Yeah, it's a JPS translation that's on Chabad.
Okay, I do
Yeah, it
got
is.
I do got JPS. It's a Jewish Publication Society.
Yes, that's JPS.
Okay, yeah, it's English, but I get confused sometimes because it seems like everybody reads more from that than like a Stone Edition or something. I know there's different translations because the Hebrew language is not only beautiful but hard.
Also, a lot of people, it's easy to go online to the Chabad.org and pull it up, especially in like the Zoom rooms we're doing now. You can share the page you're on with everybody, and so it makes it very accessible for a wider group of people.
Or I'd probably get confused and blow a brain cell.
It was supposed to be scheduled for sometime around September. I don't know what's going to happen now. But the Koran publishing is redone, like the JPS brought it up to more up-to-date type, not changing anything, but in adding some more commentaries like that are in other books also. And it was supposed to happen in September, October, and Chabad was going to change over to that. because it brings in other commentaries. I have in the house, my wife and I have the Chumash with the commentary. We have Rashi, Ankalis, and a couple of others. I don't remember who they are, but they're all there right on the same page. You can go from that one to that one to that one and read different ones. And it's pretty cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not one thing that you're reading in any of those things is right or wrong. They're all right. That's why when you read Midrash, I have books from many different people on Midrash that on the Torah portions. I like Rabbi Trugman that lives down the road down here in Moshav Bavo, Modin. I like the way he puts things, and I read many different Midrashim. They all go to slightly different conclusions with the information they have, but you know what? They're all right. Because nobody can go to any one of them and say, look at this mistake you made, look at that mistake you made. You took something outside of Torah. You weren't going on the right track. So you're allowed to do that, to read all the different ones. You don't have to choose. We come from a society that says there's right and wrong and there's no in between.
I do now. I've been reading the JPS a little more. I really liked it when Terry read it from that article to him, because it's like, all right, it's just what I just read. Understood that. And
That's good.
Your little screen thing is up again.
What screen thing?
It's a picture.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, well, I know I didn't know if you put it up or.
Yeah.
It's up earlier.
I had a runny nose, and I'm just, I don't want to be with tissue paper and all that stuff in front of everybody. But that's probably what he was talking about earlier then.
Yep.
That was a photograph taken in one of those synagogues in Sfat during a study session. And the photographer did this with it. And that's me. The big picture with the guy right in the front with the big nose, that's me. And so I thought it was just pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, it looks like my friend Pancho. The guy I get tamales from once in a while.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The picture's much bigger. I have a huge, I cropped it so this would come up.
Had an interesting experience this last week with Scotty. We were on Zoom discussing something, and he had a green shirt on and didn't know it, and he disappeared except his head, and that was pretty wild. Because his green screen behind him just totally covered him up with the picture that's actually he's got behind him right now. It was like his head was coming out of the wall. That was totally. I wish I'd had recorded that. That was awesome.
I go to a class every evening at 6 o'clock my time with Rabbi Goldstein, who is the person he's my go-to guy for all halakha things because he's an expert at it. And Chabad follows it also. And he's just really good. It's called Shulchan Aruch Harav. It's the Rebbe's, with the Rebbe's additions and notations onto it. Rabbi Schneerson, and it's just an amazing thing. He's now got a Zoom room, and he uses the background without a green screen. Now you can do that. You can put a background without a green screen with Zoom, and he's always disappearing and only his head showing or a hand showing or something like that. And I tried to tell him it's the lighting situation. He said, no, I figured out what it was. I'm wearing a white shirt. So he put on like I do, I always wear black, and I didn't turn my video back on again. Okay. So I can get it on. There we go. I always wear black. I've always worn black and white my whole life. Well, black and cowboy shirts generally. Matter of fact, I got one of them on today. Let's see. I didn't. Oh, it doesn't blend in the back. But if this was green, you could see right through me. And it's so cool the way the green screens work. And now you can see I just bumped against it. See, it flips back and forth. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anybody have it? Go ahead, Thomas.
Well, I got to go and make sure my mom takes her medicine right. So I just want to say thank you, Rabbi. Tonight was great. And you had your time change, right?
Yes, yes.
So it'll be noon tomorrow?
Yeah,
me?
noon. Yeah, noon tomorrow for you.
Because I will be here.
Okay, good, good.
Y'all take care. Love you much.
See you later, brother.
Into the quarantine.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed what I put on the notice about the room tonight. I said, where else are you going to be going?
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you look on your Facebook now, how many more people are, I mean, I'm getting friend requests like forever. People are just discovering it and all that. They have time to get deeper into it. But anyways, anybody have anything else they want to talk about or questions or whatever?
Rabbi, you're Chabad, yeah. You said
Yeah,
that
yeah.
several times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've found, pardon me, and this is just information for other Noachites, that I found because of the Rebbe's teachings about the Noachite nation, you know, actually going so far as to go to the President of the United States and declare, you know, make a declaration of a Noachite nation. I found that Chabad is so friendly and so supporting towards anybody who has a sincere belief in the Noachide laws. You know, I would encourage, and I would assume you would too, you know, anybody to try to find a Chabad house, to try to, you know, if you're searching, if you're going to learn, if you're wanting to learn more about the beauty of Judaism, you know, Chabad, the teachings of the Rebbe, just every time I hear another sichos in English, I'm just blown away. You know, every time I hear another word that man's taught, it just blows me away, because I feel he lived on a different level.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, when you looked into his eyes, you saw Hashem, because that's what he saw in you. You know, and he was just such an incredible person. And I find when I go to Chabad houses, I find that beauty no matter where I go. And fortunately, I'm blessed. I live in Seattle. We have Chabad House Minyan. We have a congregation Sherry Teshuva Lubavitch. We have the Eastside Torah Center. We have the Chabad of Capitol Hill. There's Chabad houses literally everywhere in Seattle. You know, so we're very blessed and very lucky. And I don't know about other places in the nation where the other Noachites here tonight are from, but man, I'd sure encourage, you know, even if you're just looking for a quiet place to go read Tehillim, you know, I love reading Tehillim, you know, and just to have a quiet place to be able to go pray. You know, it's a beautiful thing.
You're absolutely right, but I want to warn you in advance that not all Chabad rabbis that run Chabad houses have reached that point yet.
Yeah.
And if anybody needs any help in their local Chabad house, if you will get me the rabbi's name and phone number, I will attempt to talk to him about it. Not everybody is open. See, look at my little spot there on the screen. Not everybody is open as the ones you're going with. I found some that were pretty stiff-necked about it.
Yeah.
And I've actually been in contact with 770 quite a few times, but there's no direct policy. It's up to the individual person running the Chabad house. So don't feel bad if you go in there's some rejection. You go to an Orthodox congregation, there's some rejection there, because that's what Jews are used to doing, because it was a protection device. I also run classes for the Jews that changes, that helps change their opinion. I have a very close friend. I've been friends with him since he moved to Sfat. He's from Florida. He's about my same age. he's about my same age, and he used to. You teaching the Goyim, you're doing this, you're doing that, and now every time he finds something about the Noahides and something new, he sends it to me in his studies. His eyesight has changed now, and that's what you guys did. Changed your eyesight, so you see things differently. And he's one of my biggest cheerleaders now up here in Svat. And it takes, everybody has to be educated from both sides. And that's the important thing. For me, it wasn't a question of education. It became a question of need, because Shira, as you all know, is a convert. And she was very concerned what was going to happen to her kids, because she knew that they weren't going to convert. They weren't going to go through all that stuff she went through. She didn't have a choice. It burned in her till it happened. She's very much at peace now, although she was worried about her kids. And we started investigating what happens to people that hook with the God of Israel, but they don't want to convert. And out of that came this, what we're doing, what God put in front of us to do. Her teaching the women in the Torah for the Nations Women's Gathering. If you're not a member of that Facebook group, you should be if you're a woman. And once a week, she comes online. She talks for about 45 minutes. And her videos are there. Plus, she has a YouTube channel. If you Google YouTube Shira Sherbo, all her teachings are up there. And on our Torah for the Nations website, there's a whole, she did 10 classes on Recognize and Know God. And they're pretty good. And we have to organize stuff. I have to find somebody who can really do some work on a website, because I've just, the technology has gone by me. I stopped learning the technology, so I'm not as good at it anymore as I used to be. I used to be able to sit down and knock something out in 10 minutes, and we got a website. But now everybody uses WordPress, and use all these other things. So if you know anybody who can help out, maybe talk to them, or give us a hand or something. We can't pay them anything because we don't have any money to pay them, but we'd sure like if we could get some volunteers. And men or women or couples, anybody that wants to meet with Shira and I, if you're a woman, meet with her. If you're a man, meet with me. If you're couples, meet with us both together. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, once a month. If you have questions, you have concerns, you need to talk something out. These are trying times right now. Oh boy, something just went in my head. Kingston Trio. These are the times that try men's souls. Was there a song like that? Now I'm gonna have to go look it up. But this is a time for us to come together and to work together and make ourselves stronger, a nucleus, a group, to make things stronger. This is the time. What else are you going to do? You can sit and you can watch flicks. You can play games. I get a lot of invites now that says so-and-so's playing games. He's inviting you to come play games. Well, I always decline that stuff. But people have time now to really, really do some good for themselves. And when they do good, when each person, individual, does good for himself and makes himself a better person, it makes the world better. Because you're making yourself better, and someone else is making themselves better, and something else, and the light gets brighter and brighter and brighter and pushes the darkness. And what does it say about the life in the next world? No darkness. There'll always be sunlight. The light will always shine in the next world. There will be no darkness. There will be no that evil side of anything. It'll be gone. We leave it behind. So we can try to leave it as much behind as possible right here, right now. And this is a good time for it. Who knows how long this is going to last? A friend of mine who's pretty educated and also a doctor says, he's telling me I'm probably going to be in a situation I'm in at least till September, maybe, because if I go out and get infected, I'm in the danger zone. 75 years old, have a compromised immune system. So there's going to be a problem there. And he's thinking September, October, things will start inching back towards normal. And there'll be a vaccine you can take so I don't have to worry about it if I get it, you know. When I was 65, they called me up from my health care provider and said, it's time for your pneumonia shot. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, this is a shot you get once in your life over 65, and it protects you from having pneumonia real bad. You may get it, but it'll never progress to the bad stages. And it's kind of like every year since they started, I've been getting a flu shot. And everybody says, don't get the flu shot. That is bad for you. I know one thing. Since I started getting the flu shot, I may have had some colds during the winter, but I've never had the flu again. You know, so God sends us these things for us to use and be smart about, but we can choose to ignore them and be dumb about it. Like the guy in the flood. I'm sure you've all heard of him, that prayed to God so that God save him. Everybody heard that story, right? Yeah, everybody's heard it. So I'm not going to tell it again, but I don't want to be like him. So us together, come together as a group of people, human beings, helping other people become complete human beings. And it is, if God's putting you together with us, it's because he knows you can help. He knows what you have to say is important. He knows what you've been through is important. And so we ask people to participate and to help out. Any way you can, whatever you know is fine. But just that's what he wants from people. And it's not an accident, Cole, that you're here. It's not an accident that Terry or Manuela or Martha or Tony or Robin or Blaine or anybody else that comes in. It is not an accident. We call it in Hebrew, Ashkaha Pratit, or divine providence. God brought you together, brought us together to accomplish something for him. And as a team, we're going to do it. It's going to be good. Because God brought us to this. Anyway, that's all I had to say tonight. Anybody have anything else they want to say? Okay, if not, I'm going to go do my morning prayers, and I'll be done just in time. So 7 o'clock in the morning, I went 3 different stores yesterday, didn't get everything we need because this was sold out of this and this was sold out of that. Not because there's a shortage, it's because of the holiday coming up.
Yeah.
And everybody's now, today, tomorrow, and the next day, and Sunday and Monday, the stores will be full of people all buying the same stuff for the holiday. Because people don't buy it till after your house is cleaned, then you can bring it in the house and da. And so that's the way it works. So you just have to go store hopping to get everything you need. All right, guys, I really, really appreciate you coming in. I appreciate your friendship very much. And the next time we'll be on the air will be Sunday night, your time, 10 p.m. I wish I could do it earlier on those nights, but I can't do it earlier than that. I get it. To do the 10 p.m. meeting, I have to get up at 4 in the morning here. And I can't make my whole week that. So just because I run out of energy. I found myself sleeping in the middle of the afternoon when I should be doing some other stuff, all that. I want, before we leave, I want to just actually give a blessing to each and every one of you of health and protection, God's protection, because I know he's going to give it to you because of who you are and what you do for him. Amen.
Amen.
We want to wish you a very wonderful Yom Tov
Thank you so much.
for Pesach.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, evening or morning. Robin Clark says, wishing everyone a great evening or morning. Yes. Thank you so much for all of this. And if you want to get a hold of me at any time, I'm here. But just remember, for those 25 hours of Shabbat, Israel time, I will not be answering it. But as soon as it's over, I will. God bless you guys. See you later.
Bless you.
See you later, Rabbi.
Nice seeing everyone.